Great. Welcome, everyone. Wonderful to see your faces tonight. My name is Melanie Bukavich. I am a long-term resident of the town of Peace River, and I will be your co-moderator this evening, along with my colleague Lane Gardner. We're both long-standing members of the community. We are both in business for self, and we have many of the same priorities and many of the same, likely view many of the same things as important as many of our other residents in the town of Peace River. So welcome everyone to our candidates and to our viewers tonight to the Town of Peace River Municipal Election Community Online Candidates Forum 2021. Tonight, we're pleased to present to you the Mayoral Candidates Forum. This forum is a community-driven initiative planned by everyday citizens in collaboration with our Peace River and District Chamber of Commerce. This series of forums will complement the Chamber's efforts by giving residents an opportunity to get to know our 2021 candidates, and there are many of them, and we'll get to know them up close and understand their priorities through this series. Please pay attention to all of the other forums that are planned in the upcoming future here. We'd like to remind you that the Chamber of Commerce's long-standing All Candidates Forum is taking place tomorrow evening, September 29th, at the Bell Petroleum Center from 5:30 until 7:30. All public health orders will be followed. Advanced registration is required, and the event will be live streamed on Facebook should you choose to participate that way. This election, we have several members of council who are not seeking re-election. So we'd first like to start by acknowledging our members of council from the last term. Of course, our mayor, Tom Tarpey, has served as our mayor for the last 8 years. And all other members of council who have served in this last term, we'd like to acknowledge them as well for their time and their dedication and efforts. So Peace River, you have a very important decision to make, and we hope that you'll get to know our candidates close and intimately tonight and understand what each of these leaders would like to, how they would like to, what they'd like to prioritize and how they'd like to forge the way into the future. So now I'll introduce you to our candidates in alphabetical order by last name. First, we have Normand Boucher. Most of you will know him as Norm. Tom Day and Elaine Manzer. We would like to recognize each of these candidates as long-standing members of our community and people who have made significant contributions to our community in their own right over the years. So thank you all three of you, for putting your names forward and for your contributions to our community. Now I'll hand it over to Lane to provide the structure and the ground rules for this evening.
Welcome everybody. So the ground rules are pretty simple. This forum is to support an open, respectful exchange. We're not going to tolerate anybody being aggressive, demeaning, or discriminatory to anybody else. We're not going to turn this into a debate about masks and vaccines and things like that, because we don't need to go there. There's more important issues for the people of Peace River to know about. We're going to ask also that you respect each other and not interrupt each other while they're speaking. You'll have 3 minutes to provide your opening statements to give a brief description of your platform, your intentions, your goals, things like that. Then we'll go into the questions, and you'll have 3 minutes to answer your question, and we'll have a timer going, and we'll give you a notice when we're getting close to the end of your time. And that way you can wrap up your answer to the questions that we're going to be asking you tonight. So pretty straightforward rules for what we're going to have happen here. Any questions on the rules? Elaine?
Is it 3 minutes for our questions or 5?
So it was 5, but we changed it to 3. And the reason why we changed it to 3 is we'd like to try to get another question in there if we can. Obviously, the way it's set up, if we don't, we only really get 3 questions, and I don't think that 3 questions is a fair assessment of each of you and your abilities and your ideas and what you're planning to do. If you guys have an issue, we can certainly go back to the 5 minutes for an answer per question. We just felt that 3 minutes did allow you time and gave us the opportunity for additional questions.
That's fine. I just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, we did tweak. Sorry, we should have gave you a notification of that, but yeah, we figured that was okay. Everybody else is in agreement with that? Norm, Tom?
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, okay, good. So we can go with that then. Perfect. So we, well, I guess in particular order, so we're going to begin with the opening statements. So each of you will have an opportunity for your opening statements. And we simply went in alphabetical order, starting with your first name this time. So, and we'll rotate through. So as such, Elaine will go first, and then Norm, and then Tom, and then the next question. Norm will start first, then Tom, then Elaine, and we'll just continue to rotate through in a fair manner so each of you has an opportunity to be the first, middle, and last speaker. So hopefully everybody's in agreement with that as well. And if we are, then we'll move right on to the opening statements, to which Elaine is the first candidate to offer her opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elaine Manzer, a longtime resident of Peace River. I grew up on a farm west of town, attended school in Peace River, and became a teacher. I was a teacher and principal for 38 years at T.A. Norris, Grimshaw High School, Peace High, and outreach schools. During my administrative career, I served on a variety of committees, most often connected with school planning, budgeting, or teaching math or renovating the 2 schools. I've been deputy mayor for the past 2 terms. I look back over those 8 years and the many accomplishments of my councils with pride. As mayor, I will continue to facilitate the upward momentum. I ask you to go around Peace River, count the businesses that have chosen to invest in Peace River over that time. Peace River is changing and the momentum needs to continue in small or big steps. I envision Peace River as a healthy, vibrant, active community where families want to live and work, a community that businesses find attractive and welcoming to both their workplaces and their employees. I commit to work with my new council to develop a refreshed strategic plan that will guide council's decision-making. Attracting and retaining healthcare and other workers and the development of more affordable housing, including retirement housing options, is important for Peace River's growth. Tourism-associated businesses are something that we should examine. My priorities include a council where communication and decision-making are thoughtful, transparent processes that include public consultation both in person and online, such as the neighborhood Zoom meetings. We need to listen and discuss differing views and then move issues forward in an effective and productive way. Regular review of policies with public scrutiny is important. Another priority is well-planned and maintained infrastructure improvements, including stable funding for neighborhood improvement programs to add to Peace River's attractiveness. I invite everyone to drive around our beautiful community and check on the many projects that the town has completed in recent years, or walk the new bridge walkway or the trail up the West Hill beside the new dog park. I would intend to continue that forward momentum on those sorts of things. I'm a strong advocate of our many nonprofits who have added to Peace River's livability. Recently, council has helped the SPCA and Sagatawa nonprofits obtain land to expand their programs to benefit our community. I believe there are many other opportunities to explore organizations like Northern Lakes College. A third priority is fiscal responsibility with balanced budgets and thoughtfully planned expenditures, balancing future and present needs. Municipal financing is a big learning curve. We need to have patience and perseverance in dealing with other levels of government. The advocacy for the $200 million new and old bridge work started early in my first council term. The last priority is respectful collaboration with neighboring communities for the mutual benefit of all. My last council now has new capital and operating funding agreements with 2 of the 3 neighboring municipalities.
That's time.
Third nearing completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Sorry to have to cut you off there, but for the sake of time. So we're going to move on to Norm now, who you also have 3 minutes now to provide your platform and thoughts and ideas for your for this election. So we'll start the time when you're ready. Looks like you're on mute still. So is it possible that we can move on to Tom and let Tom speak while we try to sort out Norm's technical difficulty there? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that would be best.
Okay, so Norm, if you're okay with that, we're going to move on to Tom while we try to sort out your audio so that we can get you an opportunity to speak as well. Thumbs up, Kate, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to Tom then. So Tom, you'll have 3 minutes to present your platform and thoughts and ideas for the campaign here. So we'll let you start then.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, for tuning in to this new technology way of communicating. It's something I used a bit, but not as much as maybe many of you out there. But first of all, I thought it'd be important for you to get to know who I am. I'm the father of the family that owns the Main Street Shell in Peace River. We've had this establishment for 17 years and we've recently sold. So now that's given me a little bit more time to definitely consider the opportunity to be mayor for the town of Peace River. I was born in Peace River. I was raised in Northern Sunrise. I grew up in the farm in the area, and I attended high school in Peace River also. Something I remember that was quite significant in high school here when I grew up is a football team we put together in my graduating year, where we put together a group of students interested with a new group of coaches. And we actually put together a football team when we also had another competing team in Peace River, and we did very well, where we ended up winning the sweeping the league and winning the Peace Bowl that year. And something I learned at that time was how important it is to work together as a team. And when you have a common goal in a talented group of diverse individuals, you can really accomplish something. From there, I did various jobs, but I ended up in the oil industry, and I started in the service side. I enjoyed the different type of interesting work, and then I actually made it into operations, where I worked my way up from the beginning of an oil operator in this area, and actually worked my way up to a very significant role in one of the largest oil and gas companies in Canada. At the time, we were going through significant changes, and at first I was brought in as more or less a field supervisor in areas that had significant change. And it was my job to try to put together the pieces that were left over. And it was a difficult time, but I knew that if I had the right people who had the right vision and understood what we were trying to accomplish, we could get a lot of things done. And we had a lot of success at that. From there, I was fortunately promoted to a significant role as a senior operations manager, more or less a senior district manager, reporting directly to management and the executive for a large area in Canada, consisting more or less about 30–40% of the size of the company. It was an opportunity to learn a lot, to really understand strategy, to really understand how to execute a vision and how to get good results. I was given the opportunity at the time to actually have an on-site consultant with me who spent 2 years teaching me more or less Harvard business techniques. And that was something that I really found useful. I was also on council for 3 terms I wanted to add. And I spent 3 terms as council while I was transferred back to this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So Norm, do we have you connected and sorted out? Doesn't sound like it. It sounds like we've got you connected now.
Is that okay now?
Yep. We can hear you.
You can hear?
We can hear you, yep. So we'll make this quick so we don't cut off your 3 minutes here.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's well, good evening, everyone. You hear?
Yep, we can hear you. You can go ahead with your 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, the reason I want to, first of all, we moved from Quebec to Alberta. My dad moved to Mayoral in Alberta. I was 7 years old. So we've been here for 70 years in the Peace Country. And I went to school, but I went to grade 6. And because I went to work for Dad said, well, you should have your grade 12. So I doubled my 6 and I'll end up with 12. But anyway, I have very little education when it comes to that part. But I've run a business for the last 50 years, and I've run Boucher Brothers, and I was the founder of Manning Diversified Forest Product. which when I left, about this year, the boys I finally give up, and I left pretty well 400 jobs behind for the last 25 years. So I think in the northern community of Alberta, I created a lot of work, and it's still going on, and it will go on for a lot of years yet. But you know, the reason I want to be on town council is I've been studying and looking at what we could help. And first of all, I didn't expect any salary. I wanted to give it back to the community because I'm not there for the money, I'm there to help. And the second thing, I think we have to support the local business because we need local business to build this community and make it stronger. And the third thing, I think we have way too much red tape. I think some of those red tape has to be cut off to make this community works, and manage expense and reduce tax, because a lot of people are on fixed income here in Peace River, and they can no longer add more taxes to those people. So running a business for so long and seeing when we have to look at our costs, it's extremely important that we look at the cost in Peace River and reduce the cost, which is doable because we've done that in more ways than one. And the next thing is communicate with the residents of Peace River. We
10
have to have
seconds,
an
Norm.
open. Okay, I'm done.
You didn't have to be done. I wasn't trying to cut you off, but the time's up now, so I guess we're done.
Well, connect with the municipal, with the provincial government is extremely important for this town. And the rest, well, I guess,
I was gonna say we're done now, so I guess we'll
okay.
Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the questions. So we've got 3 questions if we have the time. The candidates also supplied us with the question that they wanted to ask. Now, Norm, we didn't get a question from you, so obviously we still want to provide you an opportunity to speak to a question. If there was something we have a list of questions. If you want us to ask you another question, if you wanted to speak for a couple minutes when it's your opportunity to speak. Did you get the list of questions from us?
Yeah.
Yep. And it was
Ask any of them.
was there one you wanted to focus on, or do you want us just to pick one and ask it of you?
Well, I think.
Norman, I believe that I got a question from Tyson. The question was, and I messaged it in the messages to Melanie, was what issues are currently facing the town and what are the solutions? Okay,
so we'll ask that at your opportunity, Norm. It's not right at this moment, but we'll ask that. Melanie, if you got that, then we'll ask that of Norm when it's his turn.
Sure, sounds great.
So we're going to ask the very first question, which I'm going to let Melanie take over and she can ask the question, and we're going to let Norm answer first, and then Tom, and then Elaine. So Melanie will ask the question. Norm will have 3 minutes to answer, then Tom, then Elaine.
Great. Thank you everyone for your opening statements. So the first question is this. I'll repeat it a couple times. So what are the top 3 areas that need improvement in Peace River? What are your proposed solutions? And if elected, which specific priorities would you undertake within the first 6 months of your term? So I'll say that again.
I think the first one is, I think is support local business and investment in Peace River. Reduce red tape is one. And the third one, manage to reduce taxes and make living more affordable. And communicate, of course, with the main people. I think Those are the questions. Communicate with residents and have an open door policy for solution-based problems.
And Norm, did you have any thoughts on what you would undertake in the first 6 months?
You know, it's really difficult to answer until you look at the real picture and where the town is going and what they're trying to do. It's really difficult to answer a question like that. But all I know is this town needs help. And, you know, I'm not blaming anybody, but we need to work towards a goal to benefit the town. It's going to be not that easy, but first of all, you got to sit down and look at the big picture, where we're at. The financial is one, and communication with the provincial government is one. It's very important, and try to lower the taxes for the fixed income people and the people in the business. I mean, some people say maybe it's not doable, but until you see the big picture, sometimes it is very doable.
Great. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you.
We'll go to Tom. Tom, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's fine. I feel I'm prepared.
Great.
Okay, well, my first three priorities. Well, the first one is actually getting to know the councillors that are elected in this election. Without councillors to support some of our common goals and our desires, it's going to be very hard to move forward. So that's my first priority, is get to know the people that the residents of the town of Peace River decide to elect. The next, my next point, or my next focus is to sit down and come up with our common goals. Recognize what interests each councillor has, what they feel are priorities, and what are our common goals that we see in this community. And I think a lot of them will be similar. And then from there, we must prioritize them and come up with a plan and execute that plan. So those are the top three things I would do: is get to know my councillors, come up with some common goals, recognize our strengths and weaknesses and what we can do to come up with some common easy wins, and then start chiseling away at the difficult ones. Then executing a plan and try to get some of these things done here as soon as we can in order to move forward and not slow things up. So those are my three priorities.
Thanks, Tom. Any thoughts on what any specific priorities you might undertake in the first 6 months, this low-hanging fruit you're talking about?
You bet. From past experience, as I said, with the 3 terms I spent on council, a big one that's going to be thrown at us is the budget. And it's going to be overwhelming. I've been there where they come in with stacks and sheets of paper to overwhelm you, throw them in front of you and say, hey, we can't do anything else with this budget. You tell us what you need to get done. And looking at the field that's running this year, I think there's some there that may have dealt in large budgets. There are others that this will be overwhelming. And I think it's our job to sit down and what do we want to do, basically at a higher executive level, because that's what we are. We're the board of directors for the town. Do we want to get into fine detail, or do we want to push back and say, hey, we're going to stop increasing taxes in this town. We're going to have a hard look at what we're doing. We want you to now come up with a plan to see what we can do. And then from there, we'll then execute, or we'll ask for more information, or we'll follow through. But I think that's the first thing, is just getting through the budget process without being overwhelmed and understanding our role, who's empowered and who's accountable in order to make some of these decisions. So that's one of my first priorities once we get in there, because that will be one of the first things thrown into our lap.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Now over to you, Elaine. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'll say ditto for the above and probably repeat some of it too. One of the 3 things would be, as I mentioned, to develop a strategic plan for the next 4 years on council. And that means, as has been said, examining where the town is with respect to finances, what are the what do the citizens, the residents expect of the town in terms of services? And I think there should be opportunity during that 6 months to have some public engagement, be it virtual type meetings, or there's some survey types of things that can get fairly quick results. And then you can dig further into what's coming to the top of the heap in terms of what people want in the service levels. So to me, our town, no matter what we do, we're faced with large infrastructure, call it deficits, call it needs, call it whatever. That has to be an ongoing, sorry, when you did that, I suddenly got a blank across my eyes and I thought, am I going blind? But I guess not. Anyways, infrastructure is part of what we need to pay attention to in major ways. And it can be infrastructure, the basics, water, sewer lines. I know that we're doing a big project on the waste treatment plant because it needs to work for us. So we have to spend the money, and that narrows what you can spend the rest of your dollars on. So new councillors have to understand that and have to have the knowledge and the strength, I guess, to make those decisions. I would suggest that the new council would be reviewing 3-year operating and 5-year capital plans that are in place as mandated by the provincial government, make their changes as they wish, and go from there. So the top one, I would say, is the strategic plan, because that incorporates all sorts of elements. And it's a plan that the council and budgets live by for 4 years, with some refreshing and reviewing, but still, it's a good 4-year document to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. And now we'll turn it over to Elaine for our second question.
So obviously all three of you have addressed the fiscal challenges for our community, which is nothing new, and all communities are feeling the same thing. Specifically, provide us with some answers as to what you plan to do to address those fiscal challenges. So this question, number 2, is going to start with Tom first, and then Elaine, and then Norm. So Tom, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. As I said in my previous life in the oil industry, I was brought in to situations where I was told, actually, at one time we had 22 different field offices, and we drilled it down to just 4 senior supervisors in charge of the budgets in many areas. But when we had 22 offices, I had the opportunity to go around in a senior position in order to look at what we could find for opportunity. And in every one of those areas, I was told, you're not going to find anything here. We've drilled it down that, you know, we've done the best we can. There's nothing left to save. There's nothing left to find. We've cut to the bone. And in every one of those areas, once we dug into it and drilled down to what we felt were significant cost drivers that were, you know, our highest costs, we looked at both fixed and variable. The fixed are difficult. Sometimes we're under contract. Sometimes those contracts can be changed. But the variable ones usually have some wiggle room, and there's something there to change. It's just who has the fortitude and the desire to do it. Some of them unpopular. So you asked specifically, and specifically what I'm going to do is break down that budget, break down the high cost drivers, break down the variable, the specifics, the stuff that's fixed, and find those opportunities there, because I know they exist. It's just how deep do you want to go and what change you want to make. So there's lots of them. I can get into everything from a cost in administration to a utility cost that has some variability to it, to, you know, how many staff do we have doing a particular role? Is that within line of what the median is for a community our size? That's another one. I want to look at our cost drivers. I focused on $1 per barrel. I lived that life for many years. I want to know what tax dollar per resident of Peace River we're paying, and what value are we getting for that for our average ratepayer in this town. That's my interest. I want to break it down, and how do we compare to other communities, and are we on the right track or not, and why there's a difference. But I know there's low-hanging fruit there. I've been told it isn't there, and I always find a good cherry or two in every tree I've ever looked. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. So we'll ask the same question of, whose turn is it? It's Elaine's turn, is it? It's Elaine's turn. So Elaine, do you need the question repeated, or do you have what you need to answer that?
No, I understand the question to be the fiscal challenges and what I would suggest as mayor to council to examine in order to try to basically, I guess the question is, lower the taxes and fees and everything and still maintain perhaps some of the same service levels, which is the difficult part of that question. Our service levels in Peace River include funding for library, museum, rec center, anything recreation is heavily subsidized. So at some point, there has to be a balance between people being able to participate. If you're lower income, a fee at a rec center is not something that you necessarily can pay. And yet in terms of your life, your interests, your health, things like that are very, very important. Even mental health challenges and whatnot can be helped by a lot of that recreation types of facilities. So I think the challenge is always there. There's no getting way around it. Everybody has challenges. Provincial government has done some of their offloading to towns lately. We're looking at increasing policing costs. Do we decrease the number of policemen we have in our service so that we don't have to pay $2 million or something a year? Those sorts of questions have to be answered, and they're ones that you then say, well, decrease the police costs, the community wants more help for crime prevention and stuff like that. How is that going to balance? So I guess in the end, it's constant examination of the books, what you're doing versus what you want, and versus sometimes what you can afford now or what you have to start planning for in the future. And again, going back to the strategic plan, that's one way of working through those elements over the course of our next term. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Okay, Norm, so we'll ask you the same question if you're prepared to answer that question, or do you need us to repeat the question to you?
Repeat it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I look at it and I think we can not only cut costs, but we do have to create business for more revenue. I think we have to have, the town of Peace River have to have a vision, not to go back on what we did in the past. So we need to have a vision for what we're going to do in this town to make it viable. And to me, we need to create business, and we need to be careful how we create business. It is there to be created. And at the same time, we have to work with the provincial government because they do have a way, they have money to help out when we want to create some business that makes sense. And I'm sold on that idea because my whole life we build business and we work with business, and at the end of the day, it's the only way we can make this town survive and make it viable.
Okay, that you're finished, Norm?
Yes.
Yes.
I
okay.
think.
Well, you have 3 minutes, but if you're good, we're good. That's fine. Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move on to question number 3, which I'm going to turn this back over to Melanie. So she'll ask the question, and the answering order is going to be Elaine first, then Norm, and then Tom. So Melanie will read question 3, Elaine, Norm, Tom.
Great, thanks, Lane. So question 3 is this. Community well-being, safety, and quality of life are a priority for all residents. Please share your thoughts on this topic and how improvements can be made. We'll start with Elaine.
Pardon me?
We'll start with Elaine.
Okay. So community well-being was the question.
Yeah, I can repeat it for you. Community well-being, safety, and quality of life are a priority for all residents. Please share your thoughts on this topic and how improvements can be made. So we'll start with you.
Okay. Community well-being, to my way of thinking, has to do with livability, also feeling part of the community, feeling accepted in the community, having things to do in the community, and being able to contribute back to your community. If you have some of those things, at least, then you stay put. If you can stay when you retire instead of moving off, perhaps. Part of that is having some of the services that we just talked about in the last question. So things like libraries, things like recreation. I think of the pickleball courts, for instance, that were new to our town in the last little while. They were brought back by people who had gone south basically for the winter. And now we have pickleball courts in the new recreation center. Others than the retired people are playing pickleball and enjoying that lifestyle too. So we need things to do. The ski hill comes to mind. How viable is it? How many partnerships can be found to make it last, make it attractive for people? In terms of safety, we have obviously a police force that we're paying for. We also have community watch, crime prevention types of programs that do actually help. We have a program where we plan on, when we plan anything new, we look at the lighting situation around it so that it is safe. That is also part of it, the outside lifestyle that people can enjoy. Quality of life, we have medical and education facilities that I would suggest are on par with any in the cities here. So maybe not quite, but at least we have a hospital. We have doctors at the hospital. You may no longer have a family doctor, but there is access to medical care here. And we need to really work on making sure that that continues. And part of that is helping things like Rotary House so that the visiting professional medical peoples can have a place to stay, convenient, they want to stay, they've got colleagues to talk to. All of that helps our citizens' quality of life. They are cared for healthy. They have their children in school. We have 3 school divisions here, all of which offer public education. So, okay, so it's those sorts of things I think that make community, and they make people want to belong and to stay and to feel happy about being here.
That's time.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. Now we'll move on to Norm with the same question.
Norm, you will have to *6 in order to unmute. I apologize, there was just too much feedback coming. So go onto the phone that you called in on. The phone, not the computer. And press *6. You might have to ask for help. We might have to move on to Tom. I apologize, there was just too much feedback.
Sure, let's start with Tom then. We'll move on to Tom.
No problem. Thanks again for another question. Safety and quality of life. Maybe just again, a little bit of insight to my background in safety. Even though I was really focused on the financial side in the role I had 11 foremen in my area that had to hold a safety meeting every month. And I put in a lot of effort to try to attend every month in the years I was in my role. And the one thing I found, even though you have a safety meeting and are focused on safety, unless you have people engaged in the program, you're really not accomplishing much. It's a process required, but in the same token, unless people are engaged and really want to do what they say they want to do to make it a safe environment, it's not going to change much. And I believe there's lot of that we have to ensure that we have people engaged in the safety of our community. We have a police force here that works hard. When I ran my gas station, I seen them on a regular basis, and they're all good people working really hard to do the best they can to make this a safe community. You know, they never told me any details. They're very good on their confidentiality. But when I knew something happened and inquire into what you know impact it had or how bad of a situation it was, it would only be a matter of time before I knew something would happen. I know we get frustrated with drug crime in this community, and people want, and I see comments made that nothing's happening, but believe me, they are working on it, and they are working hard on it. And sometimes they're successful, and sometimes it's the courts that make it difficult. And even that's more of an issue that I think is occurring, is how the courts are dealing with some of this crime versus a crime itself, and somehow repeat offenders end up back on the street. But again, it takes community to be patient, to work with their police, and to also be engaged in when they see a crime occur again with a repeat offender, get them, you know, back into that spotlight and back into the system again. And eventually they'll slip up enough where maybe they're off our streets. Something else connected to it, though, is also something we haven't really talked much about, is our homelessness situation, and something more focused on people that are on the street. Maybe they need something else in between just a court system. I've seen that as something we've talked a lot about in this community, and we've got to make some headway on. A lot of other communities are moving forward, but we seem to be stalled there. And the other one is something that doesn't exist really. There's either the court system or something straight to a mental institution. There's nothing in between, and we need to think more about what can we help to bridge that gap, rather than, again, people either on the street or put into a facility and then released again, or just taken to a hospital, and the hospital deals with them, they release them, and we got another issue there. So it's a big challenge, and something that I know there's some people running for council this year that I can bring a lot to the table. If they don't get elected, at least still have some input. The other one is on quality of life. I think we've got some good facilities in this town. We spent a lot of money on them. We have some great walking trails. And I really believe we're one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I think our quality of life is good.
Sorry.
And again, oh gee whiz.
Sorry, we're past your 3 minutes. I gotta cut you there. Sorry to do that.
Okay, no problem at all. You bet.
You're so passionate, Tom. Thank you so much. Norm, are you connected with us? Do we have audio?
He should have audio. It says he's good.
Have to push. You see, this thing is.
Here you are.
There you are.
Yeah. Do I have to push the number?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Norm, did you want me to repeat the question for you?
Yeah.
Sure. So the question is, community well-being, safety, and quality of life are a priority for all residents. Please share your thoughts on this topic and how improvements can be made.
I think, first of all, the thing I'm interested in the most is look after those with less income. I think we often forget the people that are on fixed income and low income. And I think this is extremely important for the town to pay attention to those people. The one with money, we don't have to worry about them. They'll do whatever they want. But we do have to pay attention to those people. I think creating a strong business community will help support those people. And, you know, I'm not the kind of a guy to speak for half an hour, but I can look at concern and problem and fix them. For example, the ski hill is important. The arena is important for the town. The swimming pool is important. Those things are extremely important. But there's always a way to make things work to benefit a community, but we have to spend some time and we have to really pay attention to the numbers and get the right people to do the right work. And if you live your life with that system and employs people and cut costs, Well, we've done lots of it, and I think we can help the town by being proactive and look after the people that needs help.
Great, thanks, Norm.
You're welcome.
So now we'll move on to the candidate selected questions. And the order will be Norm first, then Tom, and then Elaine. And Elaine will be presenting these questions.
So in theory, I'm going to present the question, but I think Melanie, you got Norm's.
I have access, you're right.
I'll let you ask Norm. I've got Elaine's and I've got Tom's question. I just don't have Norm. So if you can, we're starting with Norm. I'll let you ask his question first.
Sure, excellent. So the Norm, the question that you've selected is this. What issues are currently facing the town that are noticed, and what are the solutions?
Can you repeat that again? I'm not following the.
So this is the question that was sent in. What issues are currently facing the town that are noticed, and what are the solutions?
I mean, facing the town that are noticed. Well, I think I do have it here, and I think it's very difficult to, let's say you want to have a meeting with the town. It's just about, it's really tough to get into it. And anytime somebody want to do something, but with the town, it's really difficult. They put you on the agenda. But to me, if I'd be the mayor of this town and people want a phone for, they wouldn't be put on the agenda. They would have to come the same day as they want in most cases and get their problem solved. When you go to Grand Prairie and you look around and High Prairie, how they treat the people, it's completely different. So we do have to pay attention to the people because after all, we're working for them. They're not working for us. So it's a serious one that we have at the moment, but it could be fixed if we pay attention to it.
Thank you, Norm. Appreciate your answer. So we'll go on to Tom's question. So Tom, the question that you supplied us was, as a counselor, what is one area where you have no designated power but could still do some good?
Sorry, just had to unmute myself. I
Sure.
tend to carry on.
Did you heard the question, or do you need me to repeat?
Yes, I did. Absolutely. It's my question. I heard it, you bet. You know, the reason I asked that was, as mayor, that is really the role or the category you fall into. You are actually a person that has really not much designated power. You are the spokesperson, the chairman for the town of Peace River, but in the chamber meetings, you actually cannot make a motion. You drive the meeting, you lead the people within the organized or within council, the councilors themselves. Sorry, I'm kind of getting distracted here a bit, but it's really a position that has less power than what most people think. They think they're going to phone the mayor and make things happen. And really what it comes down to, the mayor is your spokesperson, your chairman, the person that needs a strong council going in the same direction, in the same vision, and what you want to accomplish as a group. And then with the council in line to what you want to achieve is how you get results. So the reason I asked that, wanted that question asked was for those that have this perception that the mayor is a person that has a power. They're really probably one of the least powerful people around that council table as far as in getting things done immediately. They have to work together cohesively as a group in a common direction, have to have the majority agree that they want to go that direction in order to accomplish and achieve things. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when you're electing a mayor and the councilors for the town of Peace River. Is it a group that can work together, have interests in what meet the needs of all the stakeholders in this community, and can they work together in order to achieve things, in order to get a lot of the things done that need to be achieved in this community? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you, Tom. So we'll move on to Elaine's question, and the question that she provided us was, please provide an overview of your past experience on boards, committees, or councils. Is this important?
This is the question I thought I had 5 minutes for, and I've got 3. So I'm talking fast, and who knows where this will go. I've served on boards, committees since starting in 4-H sort of thing. And I found that it's a big learning curve. You learn how to work with people. You learn how to focus discussion. You learn how to set goals. You learn how to implement those goals. So I've been deputy mayor for the past 8 years and had the pleasure of serving on several Peace River community boards and committees, as well as ones that are more regional. One of the interesting ones to me when I first started, still is the Peace River Aboriginal Interagency Committee and its subcommittee, which is the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. So those particular committees, there's about 20 service groups in town or government agencies that come together and explore how each of them can help various groups or individuals within our community. They make their knowledge a little wider known, and they make contacts. So I think that all leads to the betterment of our own community. The Truth and Reconciliation part of it, that was a committee that forged ahead with our journey, I will call it. There was lots of learning done and still happening. We learned lots of Indigenous ways of dealing with decision making, which is basically consensus and looking to the wisdom of elders and knowledge keepers. So besides my own learning curve, I've also hopefully tried to disseminate some of that within council and within our town personnel. Other committees that I've worked with are the Peace Regional, well, the Mighty Peace Regional Watershed Committee, which covers all of northwestern Alberta. That group also worked by consensus, and it's a nonprofit group which was constantly struggling to find government funding, which was lacking, which kept getting cut, which kept getting given little bits at the end of the year that you were supposed to have used it in. So all of that, working our way through those sorts of things, were a good knowledge journey for me. The medical clinic was another one that I'd worked on. And that was one where, you know, municipalities don't really usually build medical clinics, but we are fortunate to have a neighbor that could do it and did. It was interesting dealing with other government bodies who were not necessarily cooperating with what we needed within our communities, but we've got a clinic. So, okay, I would say that within all sorts of committees, the learning curve, the learning how to work within regulations.
Sorry, Elaine, I'm going to have to cut you off.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
cut me off.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I got to.
It's okay.
Okay.
Oh, now I don't know where I went.
So that was the questions that we had. So we were able to ask the 4 questions. So now I'm going to turn it over to Melanie, who will move into the closing statements for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So, of course, we will be moving into closing statements. You will each have 3 minutes, just as we have already done. The order will be Tom, Elaine, and then Norm. So we'll start with you, Tom.
No problem. Well, thank you very much. Well, in my closing statement, I just wanted to go over the 4 pillars that I think are important. You're going to see on my Facebook site and on some of my signage around town, but they're healthy, wealthy, cooperative, and to celebrate. And when I say healthy, it's not COVID. COVID is something a part of our health in our community today, but what I want to focus on is a barometer of health in all the different segments in which our ratepayers contribute. Everything from the health of how our garbage is getting picked up, the health of how our administrative office is being run, the health of our residents. How are they feeling about this community? I think we have to get a barometer and some type of measure to the health of this community. Right now, I'm hearing a lot of unhealthy things, and I don't think we'd have a large field running if we were healthy as maybe some think we are. And so that's something that I think is really important, that we have a barometer on that, and it's part of communication and part of really keeping in touch to these different segments of where our taxpayer dollar is being spent. The other one is wealth. And I come across as a guy who is really focused on the financial side, but I also understand that it's not cut at all costs. In order to achieve many of the dreams we want to achieve, we need money. It's that simple. From helping that person on the street, Norm brought up something really important, the underprivileged, those on fixed income. And we're going to get in a tough world here, and how we've gone through COVID, the way we've had to, acquire debt at so many levels, at government, at every level, and then what the future looks like. And wealth is going to be a really difficult part to achieve. The other one is cooperation. We're living in this world that is more segmented than ever. This attitude of tribalism, it's either you're with me or you're without me. We heard that from Bush, and now Trumpism has taken off to a point that, even lately, like Lane and the moderators did a good job. Let's not get into a COVID discussion tonight, because that's just divisive, neither on my side or not on my side. I took a vaccine, I'll wear a mask, I'll do what's right, and I'll do it with the facts that are in front of me, not because a social media site put pressure on me in order to meet what they think is important. I want the facts, and I want the experts in front of me. And I'm disappointed that the provincial and federal government are tossing this around like a hot potato. The last thing is celebrate. We got a lot of work in front of us. We've been cooped up. We don't even know our neighbor across the hedge anymore. We think there's something, and all that antisocial lack of communicating is giving us a lot of problems in this world. We got people stuck in a basement. We got kids that go outside and see the sun most days. And we wonder why, this world is turning into, we have a community, but is it a community, or are we more separated? We have to change that. We have to celebrate, and we have to get people out there. We had things that were great, like Peace Fest, and we still have them, and people are trying hard to make that work again. But I think it's more than that. We need to celebrate some of the hard work and some of the challenges that we have in front of us, and get to know each other. So those are my 4 pillars. Thank you very much. And if you want a better day, vote for Tom Day.
Thank you, Tom.
Great, thanks, Tom. So next we'll move on to Elaine. Before I do that, Norm, I'm just going to remind you to hit *6 to unmute yourself as soon as Elaine is done. All right, Elaine.
Well, interesting discussion, and the gang learned things, and I think that's what the next council has to do. My priorities include transparency and communication and decision making, which means let's involve all sorts of people in our discussions and broaden that as much as we can, but realize that we want to move forward. So we have to perhaps have some time limits on some of the discussions. Planned infrastructure upgrades, to me, our community has got behind the 8 ball on that in several ways over the course of years. So we need to go forward. It's a have to, it's not a need. It's not a I want, it's a have to. Fiscal responsibility with expenditures is obviously very important, and I would continue to work on that philosophy. Collaboration with neighboring communities, municipalities. We have agreements with them in place to help us fund some of our infrastructure, help some of our recreation, keep those costs down for the people that actually live in Peace River, but which have residents from their communities that also use those facilities. Communication and public consultation is going to be important, and I think we need to expand the ways in which we can do that. I think that balancing all sorts of things is critical. It's critical to any group, and we have to balance business wishes versus individual wishes versus social strata concerns.
Elaine, you muted yourself. Elaine, you've got yourself on mute.
Oh, sorry. did the space bar thing. We have to find all sorts of inputs into the decisions we make and keep them balanced. So we have to have balanced views and keep the balance so that everyone gains at least something. And I'll stop there.
Great. Thank you, Elaine. Norm, you're next with your closing statement. Do we have your audio working?
Hello?
We can hear you, Norm.
Okay. Well, you know, when I look at the big picture here, I think we often do a lot of things, but sometimes we forget what's the most important thing. And to me, the most important thing is communication with people. It doesn't matter which level they are or what they do, but if we don't have good communication, let's say the council. Well, I work with a lot of people, and I work with people like Shaw Communication. I work with Ralph Klein. I work with all kinds of people, and I don't have the education they have, but I always succeed what I wanted. The main thing is to cooperate with the people. We're all built different. We all have a different mind, and some of us, they're not programmable. So I can tell you that I've done big business with all kinds of people, and I think this is the main one. We got to communicate with people and be close to them. It doesn't matter who it is, and if we figure that we need to be a special technician to achieve something, I think we're wrong. Because to me, we're given different kinds of opinion, different kinds of idea, different kinds of vision in this, and I love working together with people, and it's the only way. And council, if you meet with them and discuss problem, they will come around. That's my information I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Appreciate your closing remarks there. Now we'll turn it over to Lane.
So I just want to say a quick thank you, Norm and Elaine and Tom, for your candid answers, your respectful communication with each other and with everybody. This is a big election and, of course, important for the town of Peace River. So we really do appreciate the time you've taken and answering our questions, and best of luck to all three of you. I'll also take a moment to thank the group that kind of pulled this all together for the citizens of Peace River to allow a forum for everybody to get some information and learn a little bit about the candidates. We'll have more sessions coming up here, so watch for them, and they'll be posted to Facebook. We have 4 or 5 more sessions with all of the counselors, the potential counselors, so you'll watch for those. Reminder, get out and vote. Vote. Advanced polls are October 8th and 9th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Ski Hill. And election day is October the 18th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Ski Hill. So no sense sitting on the sidelines and complaining and whining about things never happening. Get out and vote and put your mark on paper and have your voice be heard. So reminder, tomorrow as well, the Chamber of Commerce is doing their forum as well for the councillors, and mayoral candidates are invited. So you can watch for that as well. So thanks to everybody for participating. Thanks to the citizens of Peace River for watching, and have a great evening.